Hi, this is Sherry Veronica. Shirley Rogers was 73 years old. 73 years old when she found herself out on the streets. She was homeless and she was living on the streets. They said that her house was destroyed in an accident, but they didn't say what kind of accident it was, whether it was a fire or if a car careened off the road and into her house. But whatever happened, she could not afford to rebuild it. Okay, so she started living on the streets, and food, drinks, and clothing were provided to her by close relatives. Now, I had a little issue with that. You can't be that close. You could not have been that close to Shirley, 73 years old, and have her live on the street. Now, they didn't say if Shirley Rogers had a mental problem. It wasn't said here because this story is about Christopher Inniss. He's 51 years old from Tearless Gap, Hinesbury Road, and he is the one who killed her. Now, when she was living on the street, it seems as though she was still receiving her pension money wherever it was going. She was receiving it and she was cashing it and she was keeping it. It was like tied on her body, somewhere on her body. She kept money on her and she kept her identification, like paperwork. She kept that on her. And they said that she also was attacked previously, so she kept a knife with her. But on this particular day, when Sean Christopher Inniss, 51 years old, Sean Christopher Inniss, out of Taylor's Gap, saw Shirley Rogers on her bench where she would sit, where she lived, he decided to use a whole lot of force, unreasonable force, to take what was hers. Now remember, she's homeless. Remember, we're talking about a homeless, elderly female. And this guy, who is now 51, it happened maybe 7 years ago, so he would have been in his 40s. He used unusual force to take what belonged to Shirley, and he struck her in the neck, a very vulnerable spot, and she died right there. And then she died right there on that bench. And he's talking about hoping that God forgives him and her family forgives him. And her son was saying that the last time he saw his mom and blah, 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 mom and whatever, she had a son. She had a son. She had close family members, close. But she was living on the street. When I say to you that you're responsible for yourselves, when I say to you that no one really cares, you need to read these stories that you see coming up, not only in Barbados, it's throughout the world. When you are responsible for yourself, you are responsible for yourself, okay? You may not have money to make sure that if something happens, that you're all set, but you should have money to make sure that even if you found yourself in a lesser situation, you have to downsize. You know, sometimes you have to downsize. Make sure you have money for that downsizing. And insurance is really good. Making sure that you pay those monthly insurance premiums. You need to do that because no one is coming to your rescue. Okay, no one. She had close family members. They're saying she has a son. Who knows? She may have had daughters. You don't know. Could have been a mom of many, but she was living on the street. And Sean Christopher Inniss took her life. He got 12 years. They gave him 12 years. They started off with 12 years. And because it was delayed, it's not much of delay. 7 years in Barbados, not much of delay, but they're saying it was delayed. They're saying his early guilty plea. He knows that if he did that it would have been a third off. He's saying, or his attorneys via him, they're saying it was manslaughter because it is not as though he left home with the knife. He disarmed her. When he attacked her, she probably reached for her knife, and he disarmed her and killed her with her own knife. Ain't that a blip? Ain't that a blip? Okay, but that's what he's saying. Manslaughter, not murder, because it wasn't premeditated. So he's going to tell them that when he left home that night, he didn't intend to rob someone. And during a robbery, anything can happen, but he didn't intend to kill someone. And 12 years. So then they did all the deductions, you know, how they do the deductions, or separate this and separate that and subtract this and subtract that and this, you know, add this and you take away this. When they did all of their subtractions, this guy is going to be back out on the streets in less than a year. He has 230 days left at the hotel there in St. Philip, Dodds prison. He has 230 days left. Okay, Christopher Inniss is going to come out. He's 51 years old now. By the time he get out, he could still be 51 or 52, depending on where his birthday falls. And at 51, he could talk about being in love, getting married, having kids. His life goes on. His life is going to go on. His life is going to go on. He killed a 73-year-old woman when he was in his 40s. Okay? When he was in his early 40s, he killed a 73-year-old homeless woman. Someone who was down on their luck. Down on their luck. Down, homeless, sleeping on the bench. He killed her. And in less than a year, within less than a year, Christopher Inniss, 51 years old now, will be back out there, probably on the prowl, probably doing what every other male would do, but he's going to be back out there, okay? This is Shirley Veronica.
Help me spread the word about Naked Departure via social media. Subscribe and share to show support and love for our channels.